Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we are the
called chair dancing. Come on.
Yes, it's chair dancing. I like it. We are celebrating Rum Month. It begins with Dox and Plantation Rum right here on this very program, show number 165. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth by BB Lemon on Washington Ave and the Annie Cafe and Bar on Post Oak Boulevard in Houston. Now, I realized I made a great tactical error because Doc stepped out and I did not use that opportunity to refill my glass from the from that 2009 that we just had.
What were we thinking?
Wow. Okay. Well, it's still sitting on Mr. Twirligig, even though we're going to go in another direction here in just a moment. First of all, though, another craft brewer has been sold. But wait, this time you may like what happened. It didn't get sold to AB InBev. Ballast Point, which I'm a big fan of their beers, has been sold from Constellation Brands, which is not exactly big beer, but
that's pretty big.
Sort of, right? They've been sold from Constellation Brands to a small microbrewery in Chicago called Kings and Convicts Brewing. They have bought Ballast Point. They are going to move the Kings and Convicts headquarters to Ballast Point's hometown of Chicago, basically merge the two. And this is the second time in 4 years that Ballast Point out of San Diego has been sold. Kings and Convicts Brewing Company, a tiny firm from Illinois, announced that they have agreed on the sale. Now, the terms of the sale are not disclosed. They're rumored to be it's rumored to be an over $1 billion brand.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big thing. It's huge, obviously, in the state of California and has, distribution pretty much all over the place. We can certainly get them here. And I love their
the Sculpin.
The Sculpin. Their takes on IPAs are fantastic, and some of their sours are wonderful. But the sale will include their 4 California brew pubs, which include in Anaheim's Downtown Disney, in Long Beach, at the main brewery in San Diego, and also in the San Diego Little Italy neighborhood, plus one in Chicago. Also included is Home Brew Mart, which is Ballast Point's birthplace in San Diego's Linda Vista community. That's
kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a victory for craft beer, I think. If the craft guys
We're buying it back.
taking it back, we're taking it back. And there was also another sale of a craft brewer this last week, and that was the guys that make that. I'm looking for the info here so I don't get this wrong. But the guys that make that, it's Anderson Valley. They make that a really awesome Goza that we've had on the show before. They were sold to a businessman from San Diego, from San Francisco, and he's keeping them totally independent. So
nice.
they'll change hands, but stay indie. And so it's really some good things happening for craft beer this week, and not any of it involved sales to mega corporations who make beers for the many. And that's, to me, that's
I can't believe that people would drink beer without having some kind of bumbling figurehead.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
or a cold activated can.
Yeah, well, it's
I saw a comedian. I don't remember what I was watching, but I saw a comedian talking about how beer is funny because they're working on not making their beer better, but making the beer delivery system, i.e., the bottle, faster.
Yes.
Because obviously drinkers are so worried about not getting their beer into their face fast enough.
Yeah.
What do you mean faster?
That's where you get like the
that's
Vortex
where you get the
bottle.
Vortex bottle, or
you've seen the Vortex bottle from Miller Lite. The thing where the idea is that it's got this circular
rifling in it,
groove in it.
Didn't Coors have like an extra hole in the can? They got more.
Right. Because your beer doesn't get into your mouth fast enough.
But by the way, I had a beer in the Vortex bottle. It doesn't work. The beer just pours out over the vortex. Like it doesn't. It doesn't swirl around.
It's completely ineffectual.
It doesn't work at all. And it certainly didn't make it taste.
It's certainly not going to work in their short neck bottle that they had anyway.
Oh, I know. Like seriously, yeah, you can't get that in your mouth fast enough.
And then through the small aperture. Their beer aperture is inadequate.
Well, I
just
am
love that
concerned.
sentence, and I'm glad I said it.
That was like Dwight Schrute was in the room or something. Fact.
That was almost as good as when I returned from France. That was
Well,
know,
the comedian
every time
the
I come
comedian
back.
pointed out
Every time. Thank you.
The comedian did point out that like how many times have you been around with friends and stuff, and the beer just doesn't pour out of your vessel fast enough.
Yeah. Or have you ever had this happen? You're at a party and you have no idea if the beer you're holding is cold or not. Because
Right.
it
Well,
doesn't
Thank
have,
God we have labels at Turn Blue to tell us.
Yeah,
right.
Like I got my old cold sensor right here.
So
I don't know if it's cold. You tell me.
all right, so Docs, what have you poured us here? This is our second rum, and I can tell you already on the nose, I'm loving it.
Yeah,
What is this?
I wanted to go polar opposite from that Jamaican one,
Yes.
which was super dry. This one is the Guatemala XO, and this is a Guatemalan rum, obviously. It's been aged in bourbon casks, and like all plantation rum, it goes back to France, gets aged for 1 year in Ferron cask, and then spends 6 months in Amburana cask.
This is
Now, I want to back up real quick. I was incorrect about something on the Jamaican. It's 1.5 years for that dynamic aging with the Tokai. And this one's
Okay.
going to be 6 months. Okay.
This is
buttery.
couldn't be more different than
On the nose,
yeah.
super tropical, very coconutty.
It's really
Coconutty.
It's the kind of rum that makes you, immediately transported to the beach somewhere. In
This
the
might be
islands.
my favorite rum right now.
Yeah, Adam, if you want to hand me back a cup, I will.
However, I may say the same thing in 10 minutes from now.
Well, depending on what you have next, this is like one of my favorite rums I think we've ever even had on.
So this
here.
one's, but you also
This
get
is so good.
You get like almost like
The nose on this like starts
It's
way
just-
back here.
This is like I was saying. This is one where as soon as you take that first sip, you're like, okay, I'm on vacation, and that's a feat unto itself.
Did I
you
tell
know
you
what
the
I mean?
proof?
No, I don't think so.
Guess the proof. Go on, guess. Guess.
Wait,
Go on, guess.
Is it 100?
It's 100.
It's got
Wow.
some heat to the back of
Yeah.
it, but in a friendly way. This is delicious. Like,
So
this is
aged
hitting my palate.
7.5 years in bourbon cask.
No, several.
No.
So I'm gonna let you on a little secret here. Whenever we say XO, that means we're not really sure. No.
love it.
It's going to be a blend of different barrels, different ages. So I mean, we always like to be very, very transparent. So for us to put an actual number on there, we'd have to know for sure. But we're not. It is.
So is that a rum trick of the trade when we see XO? That means they don't know exactly.
No. I was just making a little joke.
Mark Burrell put a comment up here, says Docs makes me want to have a daiquiri. I love
Is that Mark
guy.
Burrell from
yeah,
Rainbow
he's
Lodge?
so fun, isn't he?
He's
He's
he's an original Ferron, and what I mean by that is he visited our facilities, God, almost a decade ago. Once you get to go spend some time out there, we crown you a Ferron. So he's been a Ferron for quite a while now.
Oh, well, see,
Nice.
we kind of laid claim to him as well because, and Mark may not know this, but we now refer to him as Smoking and Toasting's wine guru.
Yes.
So when we have questions on wine, I mean, he's our guy.
I think
you
he's
know?
the Galleria area's
Yeah,
wine guru.
I think he may be for the state of Texas, quite frankly. But this is really wonderful. Now, I loved the Jamaica 2009 single cask that we did a moment ago, but I love this one just as much, but in a completely different way. And that's what I guess I was trying to get at earlier about your line of rums, because you offer so many different ways to experience what rum's about. And if you're somebody that's really, really into rum, you'll enjoy all of them. If you're someone who's maybe just getting into rum, you'll find one that will be your go-to, I think.
So, I mean, and again, I said polar opposites on this because they are completely different. And quite frankly, this one's going to be very polarizing. It's not typical rum or flavors. That Amburana cask, which is South American wood, it really brings out some weird flavor notes that, quite frankly, it's not going to sit well with some people. But if you have an open mind and you like to try new things and you can appreciate that things outside the norm, it's a beautiful spirit. It's unlike anything we've ever done before, in my opinion.
Rum good.
I was going to say, I got to talk like that when I was in college.
What's that?
If I had an open mind and I like to try new things.
Yeah.
This is, sorry about the joke there.
Well,
this is
okay.
fantastic. I actually really like, this is immediately one of my favorite rums that I've had. This is so good and so different. And the coconut and the butteriness in there, and then it smells so good. Like if I walked around smelling like this, like no one would leave me alone.
And if they had an open
I
mind,
smell
and
an
wanted-
experiment.
if they had an open mind and were into trying new things, that could be a that could be a thing. Yeah.
I think I mean, we listen. We enjoy some we enjoy debating and talking about spirits, and the thing about spirits enthusiast is sometimes it does lend itself to some very strong opinions, and when people get into those strong opinions, they tend to lock themselves in this jail of those opinions, and it gets to the point where things are very black and white, and we challenge those things. We try to. I hate this, such a cliche, but we try to think outside the box on spirits, so that where you are trying something new, you are letting something into your cage of opinion. But for a lot of people, they got some pretty hard blocks on them.
Sure. Some people are very opinionated, and then others, like our good friend Chris Hart, have really they're just flexible, no opinion at all.
No opinions at all.
What's his name?
Chris Hart? Oh,
Ever heard of that guy?
Yeah. Well, nobody cares about him anyway. So we're just. I'm just ragging on him because he's so opinionated.
No, Chris Hart is one of
so
my close friends.
We love him.
No,
He's
but this is what I'm going to say about Chris Hart. Chris Hart is an opinionated guy, but I'm going to say 99.9% of the time it's an opinion based on education.
Well, that's right.
And open-mindedness. I will say this, Chris, he can ask some tough questions, but I think it comes from a good place, and he has an appreciation for us, and we have appreciation for him.
And it's important to note, and I think we are now actually we may be legally required to note when we're referring to Chris Hart, we have to mention. He just showed me a missed call. When we refer to Chris Hart, we have to mention. I think now required by law, we have to refer to him as whiskey expert.
Yes. Whiskey expert.
Whiskey expert. Chris Hart, because that's what it said in Texas Monthly.
That's right.
Yeah, so if he's a whiskey expert and
Texas
we forget
Monthly.
to refer to him that way, then I think there are legal.
Apparently, he hears his
legal
name being said because he did just call.
I did.
Well, either that or he's got one of those finely tuned senses about more than just bourbon. Chris is a big fan of rum as well.
Yes, if
We've enjoyed some
anybody
great
out
rums
there
together.
gets a little tired of us talking about Chris Hart, you know what? Come to the Houston Whiskey Social, meet the guy.
Yeah, you'll talk
He
about
stands
him.
out.
Yeah,
He's
you'll talk
tall
about
and
him.
redheaded.
Yeah, you'll talk about him if you do.
Not hard to find.
Yeah, not hard to find at all. Let's try one more in this segment, Docs.
Sure, let's do it.
Where should we go next?
Let's try this Peru 2010.
Oh, Peru. Now, are there a lot of rums distilled out of Peru, or is that a more unusual rum locale?
Honestly, I can tell you that before we started bottling Perus, I was not aware of it.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know that I've ever heard of another one. That's why I was asking. Maybe I was just,
Yeah. We just won we just won a huge accolade for our Peru 2004, which unfortunately does not exist in this market anymore. I take that back. I think NASA Liquor still has some of the Peru 2004. Possibly Lee's Liquor in downtown off of Navigation, they have some. But that Peru just won huge accolades. But this is the Peru 2010. The difference between that 2004 and this one is going to be, again, that dynamic aging. 7 years in bourbon cask, 1 year in Ferrand cask, and then an extra year in our Pinot de Charon cask. And Pinot de
That's a
Charon,
mouthful.
Pinot de Charon is a dessert wine made in the Cognac region. In fact, if you're driving through Cognac, you'll see just as many signs for Pinot producers as you do Cognac producers. And all it is really is going to be the unfermented pressing juice, the freshly pressed juice from the grapes, blended with some aged Cognac, put back into a barrel, and aged even longer. And it comes out about 17%. So it drinks like a nice dessert wine.
Let me ask you a question. If I'm in a shop and I see some of your rums on the shelf, is there an easy way for me to tell by looking at the bottle if they might be one of these limited rums versus something that you have?
Yeah, for sure.
year-round?
If it's got a date on it, it's limited.
If it's got a date,
vintage.
it's limited.
If it's got a vintage on it, if it's 2008, 2009, if you see that if it's from one single country, chances are that it's going to be a limited one. I'm trying to think of the only thing we really do that's from one single country. Well, three actually. We have our Barbados XO. We have our 5-year, which is also from all Barbados, and of course we have the Jamaica, which is all Jamaican. But no, the rule of thumb is if you see a vintage on there or just one single country, it's a one-shot
Okay,
deal.
got it. Yeah, because a lot of what you do is about the blending, correct? Like your 3-star, for example.
It depends. It depends. Like some, yes. Most of what we call, our bar line, which is going to be 3-star, OFTD, which is our overproof one.
That, by the way, is wonderful. That overproof is just...
It's delicious.
Wow,
We have another phrase for it, but I can't say it on the podcast.
You can say pretty much anything here, but...
well, it's fudge. That's delicious. But he didn't say fudge.
That's right.
So those are all going to be blends from different countries and different ages. But the single cask that's going to be more the straight vintage transferred from barrel to barrel to barrel.
Right. Ian, what's your take on the Peru 2010?
This one definitely has a way different mouthfeel than the last two. It's
got a little more tingle on the tongue, a little more spice in the middle.
A little more, and then the back end of this has a little more body and spice to it versus the front of the palate on the other two was a lot more rounded. This is kind of an interesting thing, especially following the Guatemala one we just had, where it's so round at the beginning of the flavor and then kind of trails off and comes back with heat. This is not as present right up front, but man, right at the last third of the palate, it just pops, and then you get this great...
And then you get this wonderful tingle at the end.
Wonderful tingle. And then there's this, like you said, the tingle on the tongue that just kind of lasts for a while. It's a very interesting drink like that. It's so different from the other two, even.
And it's your turn to guess the proof.
My turn to guess proof. Well...
So the last one was 100. Guess the proof. I like this game.
This is coming in at 92%.
No.
Okay. That sounded pretty authoritative.
I totally thought he was going to go, oh my God,
It sounded
92.
very convincing and definitive, but no. It's 87 points.
87, 97.
87. Yeah, well, you weren't far off.
No. I mean, it's still higher than your typical 80 proof, or at least I should say minimal 80
You know
proof.
what, though? It doesn't really translate that it's that much higher. There's a little heat that comes back afterwards that lets you know, okay, maybe there's something there. But realistically, a drink's so smooth and easy.
We have one or two. Pardon him. Wow. We have one or two that does have that overproof acid reflux that you just unavoidable, which you don't see them very often. But we for the more bolder drinker out there, that Barbados 2007, which is exclusive to Texas only. I don't know if I've told you guys about this one.
I don't know.
I literally stole this one. We had 23 cases at the warehouse, and I was like, I'll take that. And they sent it all to Texas, and there's no more left anywhere. But it's Barbados 2007. It's been triple finished in Bordeaux cognac cask, bottled at 117 proof and 0 dosage. So it is a very bold, forward rum, not for the novice. Delicious if you like your Bookers and your Bakers and that sort of bourbons. And this is going to be the rum for you as far as heat level goes.
You've used the word dosage a few times. Would you mind explaining what that means?
Yeah, dosage is it's a practice in cognac, the addition to sugar to the product after distillation and during aging and blending. So that's a very oversimplification of it. It's not that simple. We don't have just bags of granulated imperial sugar sitting around the distillery. We take a lot of steps to do something that's intended to be a flavor enhancer, not to mask anything. Certainly not intended to sweeten. So and this last one we tried, I think, is 8 grams per liter on that. And that is to say, if it was a liter bottle, there would be 8 grams in there, and it's not a liter. So that's less than a quarter of an ounce, barely enough to cover the bottom of the bottle, so to speak. Right? So why do it?
You tell me.
And we call it, it's to bring out other flavors. It's to take flavors that are already there and enhance them.
It's like adding a pinch of salt, not enough to taste the salt, but enough to enhance the other flavors
Absolutely,
around it.
100%.
Chef speak.
Yeah, and so and the way that we produce it, we call it sucra toast. And the way we produce it, literally means toasted sugar. We're taking unrefined sugar in its brown crystal form, and we're toasting that. We put it inside a barrel, and we let it sit with the spirit of whichever we're going to be using it for. If we're using it for cognac, we let it sit with cognac. And if we're using it for rum, we let it sit with rum. And then let that sit for a year, and the end result is this intense, thick, flavorful syrup that imparts so much more than sweet. If you taste it by itself, it's remarkably sweet, but it's kind of like I don't know. I want to say baking chocolate in the sense that it's not something that you want to taste by itself. Not that it's a bad thing, but its true intent. Its true intent is to do something else altogether.
Right.
And bring out other flavors and combine with other flavors.
Right. Well, it's amazing when you like the simplified version of that is you're adding sugar, but you're right. It's not even that at all. Like that whole process is intensive and takes a year to make.
Right,
what you're making to add to this to help the flavors.
And we do have some. There's brands out there that use a much more healthier, much more greater amount. We are very transparent about all of our dosage, and if you go to our website, you can look up any rum that we've ever produced or currently producing, and they'll show you exactly what our dosage on that. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's like 8 grams per liter. I've seen it as high as like 22 or 24 grams per liter.
In the most,
with ours,
right? Yeah, interesting.
And put in perspective, like the average liqueur has like 100, like almost 200 grams per liter.
Well, and what I would say is, what I like so much about this is the fact that you are transparent. I mean, if you're doing something because you believe that this will make this spirit taste the best that it can taste, then that should be a good thing to do. But to not be transparent about what you do, I think that's where some of the companies might get in trouble, and or at least be, less than truthful. So
and adding that small amount as well, like you asked me, what would the reason even be to add that small of an amount? Well, unless it's actually there doing something, because it's not filler, it's too small. It's not adding a ton of sweetness, it's too small.
Right. If you're adding butter to your mashed potatoes, okay, might be good for me to know that, but I bet it makes the mashed potatoes taste better. It's just a thing. Okay, tell you what. Let's we're going to come back for one final segment. We have one more rum to taste, unless you've got more hiding away that I don't know about. There's one more on the table here, and we're going to taste our St. Arnold French Press, the Imperial Coffee Porter. I have no idea how that will interact with the rum, but we'll find out. And that's coming up next. It's Smoking a Toast, and show number 165.